When I first came, there were over 40 sisters, and now there are 12 of us. I was born towards the end of the war in 1945. I had one or two boyfriends, but nothing serious. And I entered the community in December 1966. But the thought of having to tell my parents that I was going to be an enclosed nun was a really big struggle, and even more of a struggle for them.
I mean, before I came here, I was writing software for the internet, and for quite a long while my heart hadn't been in it, really. But when I first visited here, I just had such a strong sense of God's peace in this place and God's love. It really touched my heart in a deep way. When I had to make the decision to whether I was going to stay for life or not, I realised the decision was already made. I just felt so at home here, and I feel much more myself. There's a freedom for me here. It sounds completely paradoxical, having given up the independent life of a modern woman, to come in here and dress up in medieval garb and live this very regimented life in many ways, but it's just extraordinary how I feel I've come alive in doing that.
We're not into socialising very much. I suppose most of us are introverts, and we don't have a lot to talk about.
peace of the Lord be always with you and with your spirit.
I think there is something powerful about a group of women together, and I am so delighted within the Church of England that we have female priests and that we can, as women, celebrate the Eucharist together.
The Lord is with you. And with your spirit. Lift up your hearts. We have them lifted up to the Lord. Let us give thanks to the Lord our God. He is worthy of all thanksgiving and praise.
And I find that something that's very affirming of womanhood. Shortly after I came here, I was sort of trying to settle in, do things right, and I was told that actually I was rather noisy in the refectory, and I was kind of really quite upset and angry, and thought surely there are more important things I should be doing here, not thinking about how I use my cutlery. But actually I thought, no, I've got to focus on this and be quiet, and I found that to be quiet I had to be gentle. And I began to see how, in learning to be more gentle with my cutlery, it was having an effect on how I was approaching the whole of life. And I began to see that actually peacemaking started in all the little things of life. How I actually handle things flows out into then how maybe I treat other people.
Christianity is now a minority culture within our country, in a way it wasn't when I came in. I think that religion in all ages have done bad things in all the religions, and that includes Christianity. I think whenever we take our way and our way of seeing things to an extreme of excluding everyone else, then it can become a really bad thing.
I hope that a community like this can model good religion and living out our faith in a good way. Because I do believe the religious impulse is just deep in humankind, and people want to commit to something bigger than themselves, and that can so often be harnessed for bad. And I just feel that the antidote to bad religion is not no religion, but it's good religion.
It is very difficult when a sister has to leave, both for us and, of course, for the sister too.
I was responsible during my few years as infirmarian for setting one of the sisters up in a home, and it was unbelievably painful. Caring for her in that very close way as the infirmarian does, I'd grown very close to her and loved her deeply. And we reached a point where we knew we couldn't manage her much longer at the Abbey. And so the decision was made that we needed to find a home for her. And I was able to go with her, and I spent the first night at the home to settle her. And she said, and when are we going back? And I had to say to her, actually, you're not going back. We are going to be leaving you here. And that was very hard.
I would hope that I'd be able to die here. I'm getting older, so I could become frail at any time. But it's no good anticipating it.
We all face the possibility that if we can no longer look after ourselves, that we're going to have to go into care. I'm quite happy to accept that. I don't want it particularly. And God has blessed me with good health and what have you. I'm in my 80s now. But there we are. I hope I should die in my boots. And I will say I hope I should die in my welly boots, you know. But who knows?
I find it very special that as Benedictines we live, die and are buried here within the monastery. There's a deep sense of belonging. And I found it a very moving experience to actually be involved in lowering the coffin of sisters into their graves. So we do it ourselves.
There is no way I can tell you what this community will be like in 10 or 20 years' time.
My prayer and my hope is, and I've said this to some of those who inquire, that a group of younger women would, as it were, network and then come together at around the same time. Preferably soon, before we're all too old to pass on the tradition, and that we can actually pass on the tradition, because I believe we've got something that's so worthwhile passing on. And then they will take it and express it in their own idiom, which will inevitably needs to be different from how we do. But it would be so sad if we were all either in care homes or in the grave before that nucleus came, because they would be reinventing the wheel and they would have lost such a heritage that we have been privileged to have. Because I think for one person, maybe in her 20s, even if she felt called here, in 20 years' time she'll be 40 and we'll be in the grave. And it's a very daunting prospect.
Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, bless and keep us. Amen.
Yes, I sometimes wonder, what if I'm the last sister to make life vows in this community? What would that be like? My sense is that we will pass this life on to a new generation, but that it may well look quite different from how it looks now.